I was actually hoping to get your opinion on that. I wasn't sure if that was gonna.
Yeah,
Dogecoin.
it'll take the pressure off of Marco a little bit.
There was no pressure.
What?
There was no pressure.
All right, back on Marco again.
Oh, you guys are going to keep going after me?
We weren't.
So the GameStop thing was fascinating to me.
So
And
GameStop was at an all-time low, correct?
yeah, I think it was at $20 a share, maybe. Could even.
I heard it was like less than 10, but go ahead.
Yeah, it could have been. Wasn't I think the most it got was like $380 for a share of a dying company. But the whole thing, I mean, to me, not to make the podcast serious, but you have now a whole generation of people that really didn't know much about finance or investing that have gotten, because of all the media, have gotten into it, Brandon being one of them. So it's really cool to see like all this financial literacy. Marco, maybe.
I got Dogecoin.
He got Dogecoin. Marco's all in on Dogecoin. Yeah. But I don't think it's working out for him. It's a crazy, like, not to get too political, but it's a really fascinating way for everyday people to kind of compete in an otherwise exclusionary place.
So this Reddit account will say everyone buy A, B, or C.
Yeah, so I think what happened was, and I don't know exactly, but I think what happened was is they caught wind of a lot of hedge funds shorting GameStop. So when you short a stock, you're basically buying an option to sell it at a certain price. So you're essentially betting against GameStop. To simplify it right down, is they're saying that GameStop's going to fail, and there's a way to make money off of the failure because you set a price in with an option that you can sell it for. And when it drops below that price, now you buy it all up and sell it right at once because you've bought it for a cheap price and you had that option locked in to sell it. It's something that happens a lot, and I don't think shorting is a bad thing. Shorting gets a bad rep, but it's just part of the game. The thing was that they caught wind of it, so they started to tell everyone to buy GameStop to boost the price, so that they could have the price be above whatever the option was before. It's called a short squeeze before they're making it last beyond what their option would allow for. So they had like a finite timeline to get GameStop up over this price until, and this is where my knowledge of it gets iffy, until the hedge funds had to kind of cut their losses and buy into it to protect themselves. But I guess what I saw is that when it was at the height, hedge funds lost something to the tune of $19 billion, which is crazy. Yeah, just gone.
So I'm trying to think. So that's where they're saying to hold because it was coming back down. So if you held on.
Yeah, there's only X amount of shares. Like a company, say it only has 1,000 shares. So if the hedge funds and the people that do this every day they kind of mess with the market. They can drop the price. They were trying to do it for a while by selling back to each other for cheaper and cheaper to drop the share price to get it below that option amount. But by holding onto the stock, it makes it much harder for them to do that. And if you buy up all the volume, they can't manipulate it as much as they were before. And again, this is where I get. I'm not an expert at all on this, but this is where you get to a certain point where their option runs out. And they can't exercise that quick sale option anymore, so it kind of stays up high, and that's when you would cash out on it. Again, I have a very kind of grazing knowledge of this topic, but the fact really is more that you have a bunch of people that the only really way to have wealth in this country is to own something. You have to. We do it a lot with 401k, 403b. You're owning equity, shares, or real estate. You have to own something. Otherwise, you're just renting your time out for an hour. You make an hourly rate, you rent your time out, and that's great, but you're not going to build real wealth. So now we have a whole generation of people that are learning how to build wealth long term. Also, a lot of people got burned on it. So you have a lot of people that got burned that shows them the risk of messing around with the stock market.
So what's crazy is I was looking into the stock market because you're always talking about it. This was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, all right, what should I be looking at? And then this all happened. I was like, I'm staying out of this for a minute.
Right, yeah.
What I like is the stories like there's a bunch of kids that bought GameStop stock or got it like when it was dirt cheap for like birthday gifts. It's like a novelty gift.
Right.
And all of a sudden this $5 stock their parents bought 10 shares of.
$300.
Right.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So my question
No.
to you, you heard about the Robinhood fiasco with it, obviously.
Yeah, it's tough because my whole issue is like that Occupy Wall Street that happened a while ago, and that to me was kind of a lot of people not really doing much and not liking the system, but not really having an effective way of changing it. You're protesting, but it's not really doing much, and things went back to normal. This was people getting savvy with the market and then being able to buy in. And what Robinhood did, they basically stopped you from being able to buy. So Robinhood is an app that makes trading simplified. So it's like very appealing to beginners coming in that want to just dip their toe in the water of buying some stocks. So it's like the place that a lot of these people that wanted to do the short squeeze were going, and then they capped or completely stopped people being able to buy GameStop or AMC.
But they could sell it.
Yeah, and they're the guy came out and said it was because of SEC regulations and there was things beyond. They didn't have enough money to support all the, and it seems as though they were at least in some way persuaded by the hedge funds to limit the amount that they sold on.
I mean, I get why they did it, but
right.
Is it necessarily right?
No, I don't think so. And if you can't support, you want to play the game, and everyone kind of talks about how there's a bunch of rich people playing this game and making money off of it. And I have no problem with that as long as they accept the risk on the other side. So they made a game and they lost the game, and they're complaining about the rules after they lost. And it's like you can't just suddenly change the game and change how things like you never been before has someone not been able to buy a stock that they want to buy. No program has limited that ability before that I know of.
It's very interesting because I've never heard the stock market talk so much when it hasn't been a crash. But like everyone's got an opinion on it. Elon Musk was going after him about it. Yeah,
and that was cool because your guy there, Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports guy, I think he bought like $1 million or shit like that. All these like kind of big.
Well, he lost.
Yeah,
however, he ended up cashing out. He ended up losing a lot.
A ton of people lost. It went right back down. I think it's under $100 right now. There's some people that are still holding out, and they really don't have much of a choice because they're not going to make their money back unless they do. But yeah, it's like you said, there's a lot of people talking about it now that weren't before, and I think it hopefully is making people at least be more aware of it. Again, this is not the podcast for it, but if you invest in, like, if you put your money in a bank, the rate of return you get in your interest is not even going to be level with inflation. So you're just holding that money there. You're not really investing it or creating wealth. Putting it into the stock market in a diversified fund, hopefully with someone that knows what they're doing, will yield you potentially 6% to 8% of growth over a year. So that's much more than you're going to get off of a 0.01% interest on a savings account. And the GameStop thing was crazy and silly and kind of a pop media thing, but it may help people, make smarter investments with their money, I guess.
With the market like it is now, is there still money to be made, or are we in a waiting period?
The stock market is doing really well right now, and there are some, like, I think Amazon started off this year at $1,800 a share, or at least a year from now is at $1,800 a share. They're at $3,800 a share right now. There are some things like Tesla. Apple's one that's pretty consistent. What's Warren Buffett's? Berkshire Hathaway. There's investments that you make that have pretty consistent long-term gains on that are not as risky. They're obviously more expensive, and you're not going to get rich in a couple. You're not going to day trade Tesla stock, or I guess you might if you're brazen. But you can hold on to these things and right now and probably hold on to your wealth or make some money over the next couple of years.
Joe, is there anywhere to look for people trying to get into the market, a book or anything?
I mean, honestly, YouTube has a lot of resources. You got to be careful. As soon as someone starts selling you stuff, go to a different page. But if you're like interested in trying to learn how to trade, there's a lot of tutorials, that just kind of go over the trade vernacular and how to use the different platforms. I feel like I'm doing a long TV infomercial here for stock trading. I really don't know that much about it.
Not at all. Yeah. This is the first time I feel like I have a legit podcast.
Right, I know.
where I'm the
serious.
host and I'm listening, and
We should have actually brought on an expert in the stock market, because I just see it as buying stuff, buying shares in company, which is kind of what it's supposed to be. But there are people that are very technical with it, and they look at trend lines and volumes. And, there's people that make money doing this full time, the day trading.
right. What interests me is the statistics behind it. Like you were talking about the trends.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
ideally, if you can see the trend before it happens, then you're in a pretty good spot.
And that's
It's pretty much
always
just like high stakes gambling.
Yeah, and everything is a gamble. There's no safe thing. Yes, Marco, how can I help you?
When did the podcast become serious?
For the record, Marco, we watched you start texting.